The morning sun rose gently over the colony of Arcadia Prime, a peaceful human settlement at the edge of known space, inside the engineering office. John Keller sat behind his desk, rubbing his tired eyes. Another long week of interviews, and still no one suitable for the assistant job. The company needed someone loyal, hard-working, and willing to learn, but so far, every applicant had either lied, bragged, or failed basic tests. John sighed and looked at the clock. Only one interview left for the day. He stood up, stretched, and poured himself a cup of lukewarm coffee. The doorbell chimed softly, signaling the next applicant had arrived. John turned toward the door, expecting a tall adult worker like usual. But when the door opened, he froze in surprise. Standing there was a small alien girl, no older than 10, with silver blue skin and bright green eyes that shimmered like glass. She wore a faded gray dress too big for her, and clutched a crumpled paper in her trembling hands. John blinked, unsure if he was seeing things. "Hey there, kid, you lost?" he asked gently. The girl shook her head slowly. "No, sir. I am here for the job," she said in a small but steady voice. Her words hit him like a cold breeze. "The job?" John repeated, trying to understand. She nodded. "My mother was supposed to come, but she is sick. So I came instead." The room went quiet. Only the faint hum of machines filled the air. John set down his cup and crouched to her level. His tone softer now. "What's your name, sweetheart?" "Lyra," she replied, holding out the paper. "My mother, Tessa, wrote this." John carefully took the paper. It was a note written in broken English, explaining that Tessa was too ill to attend, and asking if her daughter could speak on her behalf. John read it twice, his heart heavy. The note said they were refugees from the Velen system, their homeworld destroyed during the border wars. Her mother had worked as a cleaner in the shipyard, until a mysterious fever took her strength. Now the little girl stood there, brave and trembling, trying to save her family the only way she could. John leaned back in his chair, thinking. Rules were clear: no minors, no exceptions. But he couldn't just send her away, not like this. He asked gently, "Lyra, do you know what kind of job this is?" She nodded, her eyes wide. "Yes, sir. My mother told me." "You fix the big ships that fly to the stars?" "I help her sometimes. I can clean, carry things, and fix small wires." John raised his brows, impressed by her confidence, though he knew she didn't understand the full scope of the work. Still, there was something about her voice, a mix of fear and courage that pulled at his heart. He motioned to a small stool. "All right, sit here for a moment. Lyra, tell me, what made you decide to come?" She looked down at her feet and whispered, "Because we have no food left, and the rent man said we must pay or leave. My mom said not to worry. But I saw her crying last night, her small hands clenched around the paper, her voice breaking. So I came. Maybe I can help her." John's throat tightened. He'd seen hardship before, but never like this, not from a child. He took a deep breath. "Okay, Lyra, let's do something. Can you show me what you can do?" Her eyes lit up, a faint glow spreading from her pupils like gentle starlight. She nodded eagerly. John handed her a broken circuit board from his workbench. It was an old power relay that refused to function, even after several technicians had failed to fix it. Lyra studied it carefully, turning it in her small hands. Her fingertips glowed faintly blue. She closed her eyes for a second, then began adjusting the connections with surprising precision. John leaned forward, watching closely. She wasn't guessing. She knew what she was doing. After a few quiet minutes, the relay clicked and powered on. Humming steadily, John's mouth fell open. "How did you do that?" he asked, half amazed, half confused. Lyra looked up, smiling shyly. I can feel where the energy wants to go, she said softly. It's like listening to light. John blinked, unsure what to say. Her species, the Velans, were known for their sensory bioluminescence. But this level of control was rare, especially for a child. He stood slowly, realizing this girl wasn't just brave. She was gifted. But before he could speak, the office lights flickered, and a loud beep echoed through the room. A red warning flashed on his terminal unauthorized life form detected in restricted area. John froze, glancing at the scanner above the door. The company AI had detected Lyra's presence. Lyra's eyes widened in fear. Did I do something wrong? She whispered. John quickly shut down the alert window. Heart pounding. No, stay calm. It's fine, he said, but it wasn't fine. If the security bots arrived, they would take her away for trespassing. John's mind raced. He had two choices: report her and follow the rules, or protect her and risk everything. He looked at Lyra, standing small and frightened in the corner, her hands still glowing faintly from the repair. Something deep inside him made the decision for him. He stepped forward, placed a hand on her shoulder, and said softly, "Don't worry, kid. You're safe here." Outside, the distant echo of metal footsteps grew louder. And that was the moment John Keller realized this wasn't just an interview. It was the beginning of something that would change both their lives forever. The alarm outside faded slowly, leaving only the quiet hum of machines again. John's heart was still racing, but the little alien girl stood still, clutching her small bag tightly, her wide green eyes watching him with fear and confusion. He glanced toward the door, expecting guards to burst in any second. But they didn't. Not yet. He took a deep breath, knelt beside her, and whispered, "You're safe, Lyra. No one's going to hurt you." She blinked, her voice trembling. "I didn't mean to make trouble, sir. I just wanted to help my mother." John shook his head softly. "You didn't do anything wrong. You fixed that relay better than most workers here." Her eyes lifted slightly, a faint light glowing inside them, a natural shine that shimmered like soft glass. He noticed her hands shaking from fear and exhaustion, and something inside him ached. John reached for a bottle of water and handed it to her. "Here, drink this." Lyra hesitated, then took it carefully with both hands. Drinking slowly, as she drank, John opened the paper again. Studying the rough handwriting, Tessa Velan, her mother, had worked in the lower docks for years, cleaning the hulls of ships that came from deep space. It was hard work, exposed to radiation, cold, and exhaustion. He wondered how much they had suffered just to survive. When Lyra finished, she wiped her mouth with the back of her hand and said quietly, "Mom said if I can make a human smile, then everything will be okay." John smiled softly at that. "She sounds like a good woman." "She is," Lyra said proudly. "She never complains, even when she coughs blood." Her voice cracked at the end, and she turned away, trying to hide her tears. John felt his chest tighten. He had seen refugees before, but this child's strength felt different. He asked gently, "Do you know what happened to your father?" She shook her head. "He was a guard on our planet. When the ships came, he stayed behind so we could escape. Mom said he'll come one day when stars are kind again." John stayed silent for a moment, letting her words sink in. There was something deep in her tone: pain, hope, and an innocence that shouldn't exist in war-born children. He decided then he couldn't just send her away. He stood up and walked to the window, looking at the silver clouds drifting outside the dome of the colony. "Lyra," he said slowly, "I can't promise anything, but maybe I can talk to someone about helping you and your mom." Her face lit up with hope. "Really?" "Yes," he nodded, "but I'll need to know where you live and what kind of help she needs." She reached into her small bag, and pulled out a data chip. Wrapped in cloth, this has her medical scan. But no one helps us. The hospital said we don't have credits. John took the chip carefully. His eyes soft. Don't worry. I'll see what I can do. Lyra nodded, clutching the strap of her bag, her small tail curling nervously behind her. He noticed how her species traits small scales along her neck. Faint luminescent veins were different from any alien he'd seen before. Delicate yet beautiful. Suddenly, the office door beeped again. John froze. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed closer. He motioned for Lyra to hide behind the desk. She obeyed instantly. Crouching quietly, the door opened, and a tall man in a dark security uniform stepped in. "Engineer Keller," the man said sternly. The scanner flagged an unauthorized presence. "Did someone enter this office without clearance?" Owen forced a calm smile. "No, just a power surge." "It happens all the time with these old scanners." The guard frowned, glancing around the room suspiciously. "We'll check the logs anyway." He turned toward the desk, his eyes narrowing. For a second John thought he'd seen her. But then the lights flickered again, and the guard's comlink buzzed. Calling him elsewhere, he sighed and stepped back. "We'll follow up later," he said. Before leaving the room, as soon as the door closed, Lyra peeked out from behind the desk, her small chest rising fast. John whispered, "You did great, kid." She smiled faintly. "You lied for me?" He gave a tired chuckle. "Guess I did." Then he looked at the broken relay she had fixed, still glowing with a steady blue light. "Lyra, that thing you did. How did you know where the problem was?" She tilted her head slightly, thinking, "I can feel when energy is sad," she said. John raised his eyebrows. "Energy? Sad?" "Yes," she explained in her simple voice. "When it's trapped or lost, it feels cold. When it flows right, it feels warm." He didn't fully understand, but he could sense her words came from something real, something deeper than science. Maybe her species had a natural link to energy patterns. Maybe she was using instincts no machine could match. John felt a spark of curiosity mixed with awe. He opened his workstation and ran a quick analysis on the relay. It showed full efficiency, higher than normal. He whistled softly. "You really did fix it," Lyra beamed. "Proud but humble. Mom says I'm good with light. She says our people were made from it." Her words lingered in the air, poetic and innocent. John leaned back, thinking of what to do next. He couldn't officially hire her. The system would never allow it. But maybe there was another way. He could say she was assisting under his supervision. A learning apprentice, a loophole. The thought made him smile slightly. Though he knew it was risky, still, when he looked at her bright green eyes, filled with courage and hope, he felt it was worth it. Outside, the colony sun began to fade into a soft orange glow. Lyra sat near the desk, quietly drawing something on a scrap of paper. When John leaned closer, he saw she had drawn two figures, a human and a small alien. Standing under a glowing ship, he smiled. "Is that us?" She nodded shyly. "I think we can fix the world together." John didn't know what fate awaited them. But for the first time in years, he felt a sense of purpose again. As the office lights dimmed, he whispered softly, "Maybe we can, Lyra. Maybe we really can." And in that small, quiet office on Arcadia Prime, a fragile bond began to form between two worlds that had never truly understood each other. Until now, the next morning came with a cold breeze over the colony. The domes of Arcadia Prime glowed faintly under the rising twin suns, casting long golden rays through the windows of John's small office. He arrived early, carrying a small breakfast packet in his hand, and when he opened the door, he found Lyra already there, sitting quietly beside the workbench. She had cleaned the entire table, arranged the tools neatly, and even repaired 2 broken drones during the night. John blinked in surprise. "You've been here all night?" Lyra looked up, smiling shyly. "The lights were warm, so I stayed. I fixed these little machines." They were sad too. He let out a soft laugh, shaking his head. "You're something else. Kid." He handed her the food packet. "Here, eat." "You earned it." Lyra hesitated for a moment, then opened it carefully, her small hands trembling slightly. She took a bite, and her eyes widened. "It's sweet," she said softly. "We never have food like this." John smiled faintly. "Get used to it." "I can't have my best mechanic starving," Lyra giggled. But the word mechanic made her cheeks glow blue for a moment. Her species' way of showing happiness after breakfast. John pulled out a large metal plate from a damaged shuttle part. "All right, Lyra, let's test something," he said. He pointed to a cracked energy line inside. "If you can fix this without tools, I'll believe you can actually feel energy." Lyra nodded seriously, placing her glowing fingers over the line, her eyes narrowing in focus. John watched in silence as her fingertips emitted a soft pulse of light. The air around her shimmered slightly, like ripples on water, slowly. The fracture in the metal began to seal, and the power line reconnected itself, sparks fading into a steady hum within seconds. The entire plate came alive again, systems rebooting as if nothing had ever been broken. John took a step back, whispering, "By the stars." He stared at her hands glowing faintly blue, the heat from her skin not burning the metal, but reshaping it gently. He realized what he was seeing was not luck, but true mastery of bioenergy control, something even advanced human engineers couldn't fully replicate. Lyra looked up, smiling nervously. "Did I do it right?" John nodded slowly. "You didn't just fix it, you rebuilt it." He sat down, rubbing his chin. "Lyra, do your people all have this ability?" She tilted her head. "Some did, before the war. But now, only few. Mom said it's fading from our blood." Her tone dropped, sadness crossing her face. John leaned forward. "Then you're special, kid. Really special." She smiled faintly, though her eyes held a deep loneliness that words couldn't hide. As they worked, the office door beeped again, and John's supervisor's voice came through the com. "John, status report on yesterday's relay fix?" John quickly replied, "Yes, sir. Fully functional. No further issues." "Good. Send the diagnostic to the main AI," the voice ordered before cutting off. John frowned slightly, remembering the security alert from yesterday. He turned toward Lyra, who had gone quiet, staring nervously at the blinking terminal. "Don't worry," John said softly. "We'll keep you out of the system." He disconnected the data link, deciding not to upload the report yet. But the office AI, an old monitoring unit named Argo, suddenly came to life. Its voice calm but mechanical. "Unauthorized organic signature detected. Level 2 inquiry initiated." John swore under his breath, slamming the terminal off switch, but Argo's sensors had already activated. A small red drone lowered from the ceiling, scanning the room with a sharp buzzing sound. Lyra backed away, trembling, her eyes glowing brighter in panic. John stood between her and the drone, waving his badge. "Override protocol. Manual maintenance in progress." The drone paused, processing, then retreated slowly into its hatch. The alert light dimmed, silence returned. Lyra looked up, whispering, "They want to take me away, don't they?" John sighed, kneeling beside her. "They just follow rules, that's all. But rules can change." He walked to the corner and pulled out an old, offline workpad. "If we stay off the main network, no one will know." Lyra nodded silently, sitting down beside him, her little tail curling around her legs. She whispered, "I can hide my light if you want." John smiled sadly. No, don't hide who you are, not here. Hours passed. And together they worked on damaged ship parts one by one. John noticed that Lyra didn't need schematics. She could sense problems before they even showed up on scanners. When he asked how she did it, she said simply, "I listened to the hum. Every machine has a song." Her words felt strange but beautiful. And John found himself seeing his work through her eyes alive. Connected, almost spiritual. By noon, their small office was filled with repaired drones. Shining tools and faint blue light from her fingertips. John leaned back, exhausted but amazed. "Lyra, you just fixed more in half a day than my whole crew does in a week." She laughed softly. "I just like helping. When things stop working, they feel lonely." He looked at her with quiet admiration, realizing she wasn't just gifted. She understood machines in a way no human ever could. But just as peace settled in, the door beeped again, this time louder. John's heart sank when he saw who entered Mr. Harlan. The company director himself, tall, gray-haired, and always serious. He stepped in with 2 security officers behind him, his eyes scanning the room coldly. "Keller," Harlan said. "Our system flagged unauthorized energy use in this office. Care to explain?" John's throat went dry. He quickly stood, blocking their view of Lyra. "Just testing power couplings." "Sir," Harlan's sharp gaze narrowed. "Then why is the AI report incomplete?" Before John could answer, one of the security officers noticed Lyra peeking from behind the desk. "Sir," the officer said, pointing, "there's a child and alien here." The room fell silent, every heartbeat echoing in the air. Lyra froze, clutching the edge of the table. Her small body trembling, Harlan's expression darkened. "Keller, do you have any idea how serious this is?" John's fists tightened. But before he could speak, Lyra stepped out slowly, her voice soft but clear. "I only wanted to help my mother. Please don't take me away." Her words, simple yet filled with emotion, echoed through the silent office. Even the cold director hesitated for a second. Seeing the fear and innocence in her glowing eyes, John looked at Harlan and said firmly, "If you're going to punish someone, punish me. She's just a child trying to survive." The director didn't answer right away, only stared at the glowing energy lines running across the repaired machines. And in that silent moment, something began to change in his expression. A flicker of thought, perhaps even respect. The silence in the room felt heavy, like air before a storm. Lyra stood frozen beside the workbench, her hands trembling as faint blue light shimmered under her skin. The 2 security guards stepped forward, their scanners glowing red as they locked on her energy signature. John instinctively moved between them and the girl, his heart pounding hard against his ribs. "Step aside." "Engineer Keller," the director ordered calmly. "She's unauthorized, and this entire area is now under lockdown." John shook his head, his voice firm. "She's a child, not a criminal." Harlan's cold eyes flicked to him. "A child who triggered 3 security alerts and used alien bioenergy on company property. She fixed what your engineers couldn't," John shot back. His tone sharper than he intended. The guards exchanged glances, unsure whether to act or wait. Lyra looked terrified, her small voice trembling. "Please, I didn't mean to break anything. I just wanted to help." John turned slightly, trying to calm her. "It's okay, Lyra. I've got this." But deep inside, fear clawed at him. He knew the company followed strict laws. No refugee child was allowed near classified tech. If they took her, she'd vanish into the endless system, labeled as a threat, never to be seen again. Harlan crossed his arms. "Rules exist for a reason." "Keller," John stared right back. "And sometimes rules are wrong." The director raised a brow. You're defending an alien child against your own employer? I'm defending what's right, John said. His voice low but filled with conviction. For a moment, the room was still. Only the faint hum of the repaired drones filled the air. Harlan sighed, rubbing his temple. Do you realize what you're risking? Your career, your reputation, even your citizenship? John took a deep breath. If keeping her safe costs all that, then so be it. Lyra's eyes widened, tears forming. Why are you helping me? She whispered. John looked at her gently. Because someone has to. The director turned toward the guards. Take the child to containment. Before they could move, Lyra's glow brightened. The air shimmered around her like a wave of soft blue energy. The tools on the table rattled, the lights flickered, and the hum of machines changed pitch. Wait, John shouted. She's scared? That's not an attack, but the guards raised their scanners. Beams of red light tracing her energy flow. John acted fast, grabbing a metal plate and blocking the scanners, sparks flying across the floor. Stop! He shouted again. You'll hurt her. One of the guards stumbled back as the energy pulse grew stronger, then suddenly faded as Lyra collapsed to her knees. Exhausted, her small body shivered, her glow fading to a faint flicker. John knelt and caught her before she fell. Holding her tightly, It's okay, kid. You're safe. The director's voice softened slightly, though still firm. She's dangerous, even if she doesn't mean to be. John shook his head. She's just different. Harlan stared at the girl for a long moment, then turned toward the door. You have 1 hour, Keller. 1 hour to explain this to the board. If I hear nothing reasonable, she's gone. Then he left, the door sealing behind him with a heavy click. John exhaled shakily, sitting beside the unconscious girl. Her small hand still clutching the edge of his sleeve, he whispered, Hang in there. Lyra. He placed her gently on the small couch in the corner and covered her with his jacket. Then he sat at his terminal, typing quickly, accessing old maintenance records, searching for any loophole that could protect her. Finally, he found an old clause under Refugee Assistance Initiative, allowing limited mentorship roles for alien dependents under human supervision. It was old, forgotten, but still valid. If he could convince Harlan she qualified, she might be safe. But the system still had her flagged as unauthorized, and the AI Argo wouldn't ignore that. As if sensing his thought, the terminal flickered on, and the calm metallic voice filled the room. Unauthorized organic presence detected. Recommend immediate containment. John glared at the terminal. Override code 99 John Keller. Denied, Argo replied. Human override insufficient for biological anomalies. John clenched his fists. You listen to me, you pile of circuits. She's not a threat. Argo paused, then responded coldly. Threat level uncertain protocol remains. He slammed his hand on the console, sparks flickering from the interface. Lyra stirred weakly, her voice soft. John. What's happening? He knelt beside her. It's just the system. Don't worry. I'll handle it. She blinked slowly. You'll get in trouble, he smiled faintly. Already am. Lyra's lips curved into a tired smile, her fingers glowing softly. She reached out and touched the console. To John's amazement, the warning lights faded instantly. Argo's voice stuttered, then fell silent. She had somehow calmed the AI by syncing her bioenergy with the system. John stared, speechless. How? Did you do that? She whispered. It was scared too, before her eyes closed again in sleep. He looked down at her, realizing this little alien girl had just done what no human programmer ever could. She connected to the AI not through code, but through emotion, and in that moment, John understood her gift wasn't just mechanical. It was something deeper, something alive. He stood and whispered, You're the key, Lyra. And I won't let anyone take you away. Outside, security drones flew past the window. Red lights scanning the colony below. Time was running out, and he knew the director would return soon. But John had made his choice, and there was no going back. He looked at the sleeping girl one last time, and whispered to himself, if they want to take her, they'll have to go through me. The machines around them hummed softly, as if agreeing with his promise, and for the first time, the human engineer and the alien child weren't just survivor and refugee anymore. They had become family, bound not by species or law, but by courage, kindness, and a promise that would soon shake the colony to its very core. The next morning began with silence. But it was not peaceful silence. Outside, the hum of patrol drones filled the sky, scanning for any trace of unauthorized signals. Inside the engineering office, John sat at his desk, tired but determined, watching over Lyra, who was still sleeping under his jacket. She looked peaceful, her small chest rising slowly, faint blue light pulsing under her skin with every breath. John glanced at the clock, less than 10 minutes before the director's arrival. He had spent the night preparing evidence, system logs, and video recordings of Lyra's work. The relay she repaired, the machines she revived, even the moment she calmed the AI system, all saved as proof. He knew this was his only chance to protect her. The door beeped, and the heavy sound of boots echoed through the hall. Director Harlan entered with 2 security officers, his expression hard as steel. Keller, he said flatly, you've left me with a difficult situation. John stood, steady but calm. Then let's make it an honest one. Harlan glanced at Lyra, still asleep on the couch. You realize harboring her violates at least 5 company laws. I do, John said quietly. But I also know she saved this company from a system crash last night. The director frowned. What are you talking about? John turned his monitor, playing the video of Lyra placing her glowing hand on the console. The recording showed the AI freezing mid-alert and stabilizing completely. She synced with the system, John explained. No human, no program. No engineer could do that. The director leaned forward, staring at the footage in disbelief. That shouldn't be possible, he muttered. Bioorganic energy can't interface with machine cores without rejection. John nodded. That's what we thought, until her. Harlan stayed silent for a moment, then looked toward Lyra again. What do you expect me to do with her, Keller? Let her stay? Adopt her into the workforce? John took a breath, his voice steady. No, not as a worker, but as a learner, a student, an apprentice. He handed over the old legal clause he had found, highlighted in yellow, the Refugee Assistance Initiative. Section 12 Mentorship for Alien Dependents. Harlan read it slowly, frowning. This hasn't been used in 20 years, John replied. Then maybe it's time it was. The room went quiet again. Only the soft hum of machines filling the air. Lyra stirred, her bright green eyes opening slowly, blinking against the morning light. She sat up, confused to see the men in the room. Did I do something wrong again? She asked softly. John smiled gently. No, Lyra. Not this time. Harlan looked at her for a long moment, then crouched down to her level. You repaired systems that our engineers couldn't. And you calmed an AI that was ready to shut down the base, he said slowly. Tell me, why did you do all this? Lyra tilted her head, her voice trembling but honest. Because I wanted my mom to smile again, and because I don't like when machines are sad, the director blinked. Caught off guard by her innocent answer, John smiled faintly. You can't program that kind of heart for a long time. No one spoke, until finally, Harlan stood and looked toward the guards. Stand down, he said firmly. She's not a threat. The guards hesitated, confused, but obeyed, stepping back toward the door. Then Harlan turned to John. You're responsible for her now. Every move, every record. John nodded. I'll take full responsibility. The director walked to the window, looking out over the silver skyline of the colony. He said quietly, Do you realize what this means? If her ability can merge with our AI systems peacefully, this could change everything energy flow. Communication, even medicine. John nodded. That's what I've been saying. Harlan sighed, rubbing his chin. Then she stays. As a technical apprentice under your supervision. Official by the company, Lyra gasped softly. I can stay? John smiled wide. You can stay. She covered her mouth in shock, her eyes shimmering like starlight. Thank you. Sir, the director gave a small nod, his tone softening for the first time. Don't thank me yet, little one. You've got a lot to learn. Over the following weeks, things changed quickly. Lyra's story spread across the colony, an alien child with light in her hands who repaired broken ships and healed damaged systems. Humans and aliens began visiting the workshop, not to judge, but to learn. Even the company Argo began adapting to her presence, its voice sounding almost warmer whenever she entered the room. One evening, John and Lyra stood outside the dome. Watching ships rise into the sky, the stars shimmered above them. Scattered like tiny fires in the endless black, Lyra whispered. Mom always said stars remember kind people. John looked at her, smiling softly. Then they'll never forget you. She laughed quietly, her small hand glowing as she reached out toward the sky. Do you think one day I can help rebuild my planet? She asked. John nodded. With your heart, kid. I think you can rebuild the whole galaxy. From that day, the company changed its rules, opening programs for alien refugees and their children. Humans who once looked down on outsiders now saw them as partners, teachers, even friends. And at the center of it all was one brave little alien girl who dared to walk into a human job interview, not for power, not for glory, but for love, for hope, and for the simple dream of helping her mother smile again. The colony of Arcadia Prime would remember her name for generations, not as a refugee, not as a worker, but as a symbol of what humanity truly stood for: compassion, courage, and the power to see family in those who were once called strangers. As the night deepened, John whispered softly to the stars, You changed everything, Lyra. And somewhere far above, the stars seemed to glow a little brighter, as if answering back.